Good evening, class. Good evening, everyone. So today, 23rd of June 2021, and again we have editorials from the Hindu and India Express. So first article is related with the sedition. We have discussed the sedition topic couple of times now. So this part of paper second, GS paper second, quality. Very important article related with the sedition. So we'll discuss the sedition again in detail. So here we need to know about the sedition, about 124A section of IPC, and then again we'll also discuss the advantages, why we should have this section 124A in IPC, and what are the disadvantages, what are the arguments against keeping this 124A in the IPC. And then we'll see some of the judgments of the Supreme Court. Now see, this sedition law originally drafted by Lord Macaulay, Lord Thomas Macaulay, in 1837, but it was not included in IPC in 1860. It was not included in IPC originally. When IPC was drafted in 1860, but eventually it got inclusion in 1870 in the IPC in section 124A. So section 124A now includes sedition law, a provision related with the sedition. Okay. So what is written in 124A of IPC? It says that the offense committed when any person brings or attempts to bring into hatred or contempt or excites or attempts to excite disaffection towards government established by the law by use of words either spoken or written. Second, use of signs or visible representation. Okay. So I repeat again this definition. Now the IPC defines sedition as an offense committed when any person brings or attempts to bring into hatred or contempt or excites or attempts to excite disaffection towards the government established by the law in India by use of words either spoken or written, signs, and visible representation. Now here the word disaffection also include disloyalty towards the government and all feelings of enmity. Okay. Now this offense under this 124A can bring imprisonment from 3 years. A person can be imprisoned for 3 years or to a lifetime with fine. Fine can also be imposed. So 3 साल से लाइफ टर्म तक का imprisonment हो सकता है. Now the person is also punished like barred from government job. फिर उसके बाद गवर्नमेंट जॉब नहीं हो गया अगर आपको सेडिशन से किसी ने चार्ज कर दिया तो सेडिशन केस अगर लग गया तो गवर्नमेंट जॉब नहीं मिलेगा. एंड दे विल हैव टू लिव विदाउट देयर पासपोर्ट वगैरह इशू नहीं होगा. ठीक है. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एज अ ड्रैकोनियन section of IPC. So we'll see the arguments in favor of section 124A, and also we'll see arguments against this 124A. Okay, so we'll see one by one. One is in favor of 124A. First one. Now see, it has its utility in combating anti-national secessionist and terrorist element. So anti-national, secessionist and terrorist elements can be countered by use of this section of IPC. So many districts in different states face Maoist insurgency. Now this is anti-national. Maoist insurgency, rebel groups operating there. Rebel groups who virtually run a parallel administration, and now these groups openly advocate overthrowing the state government. So here you find utility of this law. The second provision can be, it protect the elected government. From attempts to overthrow it with violence. अगर कहीं बहुत ज्यादा वायलेंस होने लग जाए या राइट्स होने लग जाए तो this can be imposed because it attempts to protect the elected government. ठीक है. So these are the two arguments in favor of this 124A. But there are number of other arguments against the 124A. First one is, this is a colonial relic. This same act 124A, same section of IPC 124A, was imposed against Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Annie Besant, Ali brothers, Mahatma Gandhi, Maulana Azad was also a victim of this 124A. Now, first case of this 124A sedition case was imposed first time it was against J.C. Bose. Jogendra Chandra Bose. He was the editor of a newspaper, Bango Bhasi. Modern history में आप लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा, Bango Bhasi. And he wrote one article against Age of Consent bill in 1891. Okay. So he was the first victim of this sedition law, and there are a number of other leaders who were the victims of this 124. So this section was used to repress our freedom fighters. Okay. So should be eliminated from the IPC. Second, this is against freedom of speech or expression. So right to speech and expression, freedom of speech and expression, this is against the freedom of speech and expression. So use of section 124A by government might go beyond the reasonable restrictions written in Article 19 subclause 2. Article 19 subclause 2. There are some reasonable restrictions written in Article 19 subclause 2 related with the right to speech and expression, and this section 124A go beyond those reasonable restrictions. Now third is, this is against the democratic foundations, some values of democratic foundation. For example, dissent. This is used to curb the dissent. This is used to curb the criticism of government. You cannot criticize the government because there is again a chance of you being slapped with this provision of IPC, Sedition Law 124E. And these dissent and criticism are fundamental for any democracy. Okay. So this sedition law is being misused as a tool to persecute political dissent. Now, fourth point, very low conviction rate. Very low conviction rate. Now, police impose the law on people or dissenters, but eventually in the court, they get bail. Okay, and court order release of those prisoners. For example, अभी आपने देखा होगा, 2 students from JNU and 1 from Jamia Millia now released because of some judgment by Delhi High Court. Very low conviction rate, less than 3%, and in many cases it is even less than, you can say, less than 1%. Now, fifth point, vague words used in this section. Vague words used in this section. For example, disaffection. Disaffection. अगर आप बोलते हो कि गवर्नमेंट बहुत खराब है, तो this is also a disaffection. So police can book you under this sedition law. Okay. So police generally use these vague words and these vague words are subject to different interpretation to the whims and fancies of investigating officers. Whims and fancies of investigating officers. Okay. Sixth one. Now some argue that there are some other laws. There are some other laws that can fulfill our purpose of protecting the elected government and also punishing the anti-national people. For example, some other provisions of IPC and other is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UPA Act is there. So why we should have this section 124A? This should be repealed. Now, seventh is, this is against the international convention. This is against the international conventions. For example, in 1979, India ratified International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. But at the same time, this 124A curbing the dissent in India. So this is against our commitment. We have ratified International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Okay. So this section 124A brought by the Britishers, and now England themselves now revoked this section from their law books. Sedition law is no more present in Britain. ठीक है, तो इतना आप लोगों को समझ में आया होगा. Now, one very important judgment of the Supreme Court, that is Kedarnath versus State of Bihar, 1962. Kedarnath versus State of Bihar, 1962. Now here the Supreme Kedarnath versus State of Bihar. Now here the Supreme Court said that A person could be prosecuted for sedition only if his acts caused incitement to the violence or intention or tendency to create public disorder or cause disturbance of public peace. A person can be prosecuted under this 124A if his or her intention is to create disorder. I read again this judgment of Supreme Court in Kedarnath versus State of Bihar. It says that a person could be prosecuted for sedition only if his acts caused incitement to violence or intention or tendency to create public disorder or cause disturbance to public peace. Okay? So you need to remember all these points for our examination and this judgment. And now almost 4 or 5 articles we have discussed related with the sedition in last 20-25 days. So I think आप बार बार एक ही चीज रिपीट होती रहती है, रोज वीडियो देखते हो तो आपको याद भी होने लग जाती है, ठीक है, बार बार रिवाइज होता रहता है. So I hope ये वाला आर्टिकल आपको समझ में आएगा. This was the most important article in today's newspaper. Now this is from the explained page of Indian Express, and this you can say a part of paper 4 हमारे syllabus से recording paper 4 ethics. There was a question 2 years back in UPSC related with the conflict of interest in ethics paper. Okay. So I have taken this article from Indian Express, explained page में था, to show you one line only, the due process of law. Now this due process of law got its origin in USA. USA work on this due process of law, and our constitution work on the procedure established by the, under Article 21, it is written that the procedure established by the law. Okay. But Supreme Court now says that procedure established by law is also equal to the due process of law. And this due process of law says that nobody can be a judge in her own case. In her or his own case. Nobody can be a judge in her or his own case. Now see, the conflict of interest arises when suppose there is a judge and now hearing one case related with his own party. So suppose one judge is a shareholder in a particular company and now he is hearing one case related with that company only, or he is a member of a particular party and now hearing a case related with that particular party. So there are chances of biasness. The impartial character will not be there. Some partialness will be there, some biasness will be there. Okay? So fair justice, the objective of our Supreme Court or any court is to provide fair justice. So that fair justice will get compromised. So conflict of interest must be avoided, and that's why number of judges you generally read in newspaper, number of judges rescue themselves from the cases because of potential or present conflict of interest. For example, in the last week, 2 Supreme Court judges, Justice Indira Banerjee and Justice Anirudh Bose, now rescued themselves from hearing a case related to the West Bengal. Okay? So here just one keyword is that due process of law. You must remember this. Okay? And all other articles in the Hindu were a bit political, and also one article was related with the e-commerce. So that was related with the amendments, but amendments are not even published as of now. And once amendments are done, we'll discuss that. Eventually, the article will come again. So as of now, those amendments are not clear. So eventually, आप कुछ समय के बाद वो amendments बदल जाते हैं जब तक वो law में convert होते हैं, जब तक पार्लियामेंट में पास होता है वो, या रूल्स आते हैं दोबारा से, तो रूल्स में अमेंडमेंट किया हुआ है, ठीक है. सो विल सी दैट अगेन जब फाइनली आ जाएंगे. सो थैंक यू एवरीवन, थैंक यू. आई होप वो सजेशन वाला बहुत अच्छे समझ में आया होगा, और दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू नोट डाउन दैट, और उसको लिख लीजिए प्रॉपर्ली.